Hello everyone, Kevin DeBrita from Finch Chevrolet Cadillac Buick GMC, and tonight we're going to take a look at this Oasis Blue Chevrolet Trailblazer. It's been a long day. Normally I like to do these during the day and the sunlight, but this just happened to be parked in the right spot. At least we can have a look at the color on the outside. We're going to take a look inside and see how some of these options and features work. So if you're considering a Trailblazer or already own a Trailblazer, you'll be comfortable in it and learn a few more things. Hopefully we got some lights in here that'll make it a little bit easier to see everything and all the buttons. There we go. We've got it started up. I've got my power seat back. Get the radio turned down. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to ask a favor. Please like, subscribe, and share. That's how I can put more of these videos together. Without further ado, we're going to start over here and work our way all the way across. And if I've got time, we'll go all the way through the radio. Otherwise, you can check out some of my other videos and how the radio features work. So starting on the door up top, lock and unlock buttons, pretty straightforward. Power mirrors. This is how you're going to pick your driver mirror, your passenger mirror, and then you can adjust the mirror using this four-way switch. Window lockouts, that's for the back seat, so you don't have any kids or pets playing around with your back windows. And then, of course, our power window switches are pretty straightforward. Now down here, we'll see if we can get that nice and clear. That is your power tailgate switch. You'll notice it's got max, 3/4, and off. Now the max is pretty straightforward, opens up all the way. The 3/4 you can actually program. So on the back of the hatch, when you open it up, that same button you're going to use on the hatch to close it, if you push and hold that in any position, it will program your 3/4 mode. On the dash here, we've got our dash lights. So this is how bright, and it's going to work right tonight because it's nighttime. This is how bright your dash and your radio is. And you just switch back and forth just by turning it. Beside that, we have our auto headlamps. Normally you're going to leave it in the auto mode, but if you wanted to turn off those lights, you can easily do that just by twisting it to the off position. Then we have your marker lights and your lights always on. Over here we have our fog lamps. Push that and that will turn on your fog lamp so it'll light up directly in front of the mirrors. Sorry, directly in front of the vehicle. While we're talking about lights, right here, this little switch is your auto high beams. You can see I'm turning them on right now. That means when there's nobody in front of you and you're not approaching anyone, your high beams will illuminate. Once somebody gets in your way, whether you're driving towards them or they're driving towards you, it will automatically dim the lights. Fantastic feature. It utilizes the camera that's right up here. So that's your automatic high beams. And we're staring at the dash, and I want to draw your attention to the fuel gauge. GM has changed how they show their fuel gauge, and a lot of people can't figure out how much the gas they have, especially when they have a full tank, like in this vehicle, or an empty tank. So these little dots here, those are your fuel bars. As they disappear over into the red, that means you're running out of fuel. The last bar right here will turn red when you get really low. So there is your fuel gauge. Keep an eye on that. You also have in your driver information center, which we'll get to in a bit, which is what we're looking at right now. That will show you your how far you can go before you run out of fuel. Stepping back a little bit, we'll have a nice look at that steering wheel. And over here we have our forward collision alert. And this is your gap adjustment for both your forward collision alert and your adaptive cruise control. We can tell this car has adaptive cruise because right down here we have the adaptive cruise signal. If we had normal cruise control, that would be the symbol that you see. And I just toggled from adaptive to regular by pushing the cancel button. So we're going to put it back on adaptive cruise. So this button here is what's going to adjust your gap. I do like running with the largest possible gap unless I'm getting into busy traffic areas and I'm using my cruise control in, say, Toronto. Then I would have a shorter gap. Otherwise, everybody's just going to keep cutting in front of me. So leave the large gap till you get comfortable with it. Then you can narrow that gap. Setting your cruise control, we've got set, which is this little wheel. You just kind of roll it down and resume, roll it up, this button turns the cruise on and off. So in my vehicles, I leave this button all the time, and when I need cruise, I just roll my thumb down and set my cruise control. On the opposite side of the steering wheel, we've got our voice command button. We can use that for answering and making phone calls. You can also use it for Siri pass-through if you have an Apple phone, or Google Voice if you have an Android phone. To access the voice control of the vehicle, you would just push it and your voice control will show up. To access the voice control of your phone, we're going to push and hold. Moving over to our 5-way switch over here, we've got hard buttons on the side, and then up and down is rolling this wheel. And then the wheel actually clicks in as well if you needed to do enter. So as I go through right now, I'm going to scroll down. We have our trip odometers, fuel information. We've got a 540 kilometer range based on how this car's been driven over the last 5 kilometers. Oil life percentage, tire pressures. Now you'll notice one of those isn't quite perfect. That happens all the time. We're using air, and the tire pressures will change depending on the temperature of the air outside and the tires. So that's within about a quarter pound. So that's very close. Our air filter is okay. Average speed, not very fast. Following distance indicator, this is going to tell us how many seconds we are behind the car in front of us, so we can keep a good distance. And then this is some of our driver assistance, our forward collision alert, our lane keep assist. It'll give you a little bit of information there. As we move over, and so I've got this button right here, I'm just going backwards and forwards. So our home screen is going to show the kilometers on the car and our fuel range. The information is what we just went through, so I'm kind of rolling up and scrolling through. Music is whatever we're listening to on the radio or through our media devices. Navigation, if you've got turn-by-turn navigation through OnStar, you can get your next turn to show up here. Otherwise, it'll be used as a compass. Our telephone, if we're connected, you'll be able to see your signal strength, battery voltage, battery remaining, and if you are talking to somebody, who you are talking to. And the last one's our setting. This is where we're going to switch from miles to kilometers. Not something that's happening too much these days, but if you did need to switch from miles to kilometers, we're just going to click on units. There's US to switch to miles. I'm clicking in this button right here. And now we have the whole car in miles. You'll notice that right here. Also, our temperature has gone from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Scrolling down some more, we have our info page options. So right now it looks like we've got most of our stuff turned on. Let's say we had too many trip odometers. We could turn that one off. Air filter life, fuel economy. If you want to track some more fuel economy, we can turn that on. Average speed, something that not get used very often. Top consumers is pretty cool, as well as fuel economy trend and eco index. If you like lots of information about your vehicle, I just turned a bunch of those on, and I'm going to go back here in our information, and I believe they show right up near the bottom. There was your fuel economy number, top consumers, and again, we just don't have enough miles on this car to go through all of that information. But we need to go back because we've got the whole car in miles. So I'm going to go back to my home page, all the way over to settings, scroll up to units, go down to kilometers. Great. Now we're back in kilometers. No more speeding tickets for the new owner of this vehicle. So that kind of wraps up your steering wheel controls, with the exception of, and it's going to be hard to see, but back in here, there's a couple buttons. Top button and a lower button. Those buttons on this side of the steering wheel are going to control your presets that you have in your radio. So it'll allow you to move back and forth through your presets, so you can change the radio station without getting fingerprints on the screen. On the opposite side, same buttons right in here. That's going to be your volume, so you can turn that up and down. So that is 100% of the stuff that we have on the steering wheel, except for the horn. If you're curious what the horn sounds like. Then I'm going to give you kind of a once up right in through here. So parking brake, all electronic now. Pull to set, and then to release it, you got to have your foot on the brake, push it down, and that will release your parking brake. Transmission shifter, pretty standard. like most of the vehicles out there, some of the newer cars have gone to an electronic system. This is still very conventional. Sometimes what will happen, you'll notice I'm in drive right now. Sometimes in a rush, you'll pull it all the way back into L. You'll be driving your car wondering why the gears aren't changing. If this is the case, while you're driving, you can just tap it back up into drive and the car will pick the gears once it goes into drive. If you like that low and want to be controlling your gears, these buttons are right on the side here, hard to see with the light, but that will allow you to shift up and down through the gears of your transmission, essentially just limiting the top gear. So let's just go all the way up to 9, and then I'm going to go back into drive. Before I go into park, I'm going to put it into reverse, and that allows us to see our backup camera as well as our camera lines. So as you turn, you'll see those camera lines, and you probably heard the beep. That means that we have rear parking sensors. With our rear parking sensors, those are going to illuminate when you get close to something, and then it will beep constantly when you get all the way into that last section, which brings you about 8 inches away. So find your comfort zone. Some people like to use all 4 of those guidelines. Others will just go to the first 2 or 3 and make sure they got lots of room all the way around their vehicle. Quick back to the camera. We talked about the grid lines. This button down here will take away the grid lines. So you've got 2 looks, your choice, it's your car. I'm gonna move us back into park so I don't roll around anywhere and go through some of these buttons in the front. First one here is our start stop or auto stop. This vehicle does come standard with auto stop, which means when the vehicle is all warmed up and you come to a complete stop, the engine will actually turn off. As soon as you lift your foot off the brake, the engine will restart. Now there's a bunch of parameters that have to be met in order for this to take place. So if you are coming to a stop and the engine's not turning off, it may be too hot, too cold, or the engine's not warm enough yet. Also, if you're running your heating and air conditioning system up really high, that may also prevent it from turning off. Lane keep assist right here. So this works over 60 kilometers per hour. Once you get over 60 kilometers an hour and the camera properly reads the lines in the road, that little white icon will turn to green. And what that means is if you're getting too close to one side or the other, the steering wheel will actually turn itself and keep you inside of the lane. Pretty fantastic feature. Maybe a little scary if you don't know that it's going to happen the first time. That's why it's always good to go through all of the options in your vehicle. Traction control, most of the time you're going to leave this on, but in the event you actually got stuck and needed to rock back and forth out of a position, you would turn that off, but it does turn on automatically every time you start the car by default. Then we have our sport mode. This is just going to change the algorithms in the transmission to give you a more enthusiastic drive. And the last one will be your all-wheel drive. So push to set and push to disengage. While we're looking back here, we've got our standard, cigarette lighter type outlet, USB-C, USB, and then auxiliary. So we've got lots of information down there, lots of ways to charge your stuff. And then as we move up top, these are our climate control. So we've got temperature right here, and we got our fan speed over here. Of course, our heated seats down in the bottom. And then we have a auto feature for our heating and air conditioning system. So you'll notice the fan just kicked right up. We're at 23 degrees. That means it's not 23 degrees in the vehicle right now. As it gets closer to 23 degrees, the fan speed will turn itself back down and it'll maintain 23 degrees inside the vehicle. So if you stuck with me so far, thank you so much. We're just under 15 minutes into this video. I'm going to talk about some basics on the radio so that you can get comfortable with the basics. And then there are some other videos I've got online which give you a little more detailed information. So I'm going to start off using the home button. I love the home button. The home button is always going to bring you to the home page, and that is where you can find everything that you're already used to. So it doesn't matter if you happen to be in the Wi-Fi hotspot menu. To get back, hit your home button. We've got all of our icons here. We can move over to the next page. We've got more icons, including our climate control, which allows us to control everything that we were doing down here on the touchscreen. Back to my home page. Also have a home page where you'll have your phone if it's connected, and then what you're listening to on the radio. So let's start with audio. So we have AM, FM, satellite radio. If I go to more, that's where I can pick up my Bluetooth, which is also on this vehicle. And if you had USB ports plugged in, they would auto-populate up there as well. Satellite radio is active, and if you're buying a new GM vehicle, you will get that for 3 months complimentary, and then they will contact you to upgrade if you want to continue your service. Sound menu, this is where you're going to adjust your treble and bass, balance and fade if you want to move the sound closer to the back or to the right or the left. Browse is really cool. So you can see, you can pick, music stations, sports, news. This is also where you go to direct tunes. So if you know you like channel 65, you can hit go and it will program in those channels. Settings down at the bottom. This is a fairly new menu, so I won't go over this too much right now as I am not 100% familiar with it myself. This is the XM360. So you notice it has a pause button. This allows you to pause live radio and even rewind and listen to the song that you were just listening to that you loved so much. If there's one feature I like about satellite radio, it's this one. It is fantastic. So let's go back to our home page. Phone's very easy to connect. Hit connect the phone, hit add a phone, then search for My Chevrolet on your phone and it'll allow you to connect. Great feature. We can connect to more phones at the same time than we used to be able to. So in the past, you could only connect to one phone at a time. Now we can connect to 2 at the same time. One will be your primary phone, which will be used for incoming and outgoing calls. The second one will be a secondary phone, which will take incoming calls. Back to our home page, Wi-Fi hotspot. Let's face it, most of us have enough data on our phone. We don't need to pay for extra Wi-Fi. However, there are cases where you're going to have bad coverage or you don't have any data left in your phone and you're going to have to activate the OnStar Wi-Fi. Really great feature. You can either pay for it on a month-to-month basis or you can pay for it when you need it, which is the way my wife and I use it. I'm going to jump over to settings for a minute. You did see that spot that said users. It is a good idea to set up the user menus. That will give you one more category in here, and everything you program in the vehicle menu will be saved under your user profile. So as an example, if you love your vehicle to lock itself automatically, which is called passive door lock, we're going to go on with the horn chirp. If you have a profile set up, it will save it in that profile. So whenever you get into another GM vehicle that takes profiles, enter in your email address and password. That vehicle will then be set up with your profile and all of your preferences. Looking through here, let's just kind of go across the top. We've got our climate, our collision detection systems. So you can see here, you can have it alert and brake, or you can turn things off. This also has our adaptive cruise go notifier, which means while on adaptive cruise control, if the vehicle comes all the way to a stop, all you do is tap the gas and it will resume your adaptive cruise control. Lane change alert, that's your blind spot monitors that you're going to have on both of those side mirrors. Comes on from the factory but can be turned off. Same thing with your parking assist. Rear cross traffic, something that we don't talk about a lot. When you're in reverse, if someone's coming from the right or the left, that little icon there will show up in the right or the left side, and that will let you know that somebody is driving, walking, or riding their bike towards your vehicle. Fantastic feature. It has saved me a few times. I really do like a lot of the technology in these newer vehicles. Now there's more to talk about, and I do want to get into absolutely everything, like apps, for example. We can now download Spotify onto our vehicle, but I need to keep this vehicle under 20 minutes so I can make it home in time. I hope you liked this vehicle and the video that I put together. And if there's any questions, please message me, comment, or give me a call. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name's Kevin DeBrita from Finch Chevrolet Cadillac Buick GMC. Have a fantastic day and drive safe.